There's a new entertainment option in Fort Wayne that not only comes with built-in laughs, but also comes with a side helping of collaboration, self-confidence, and human connection. I'm talking about improv comedy at the Fort Wayne Improv. I'm joined by its founder, Michael Brott. Michael, welcome to the 260.
Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. Hey, you come from the mecca of improv comedy, Chicago. What brought you here to Fort Wayne and start a club?
Great question. I did grow up in the Chicago suburbs, so had access to a lot of different improv comedy growing up. And my wife and I don't have kids of our own. So we have nieces and nephews, and we got to see kind of my nieces and nephews in the Chicago area grow up. And they're off to college and doing great things. And we have young nieces and nephews down in Fort Wayne. So I told my wife we were kind of coming to the make or break point at a theater that we owned up in the Chicago
So you were
suburbs.
in the improv comedy business in Chicago?
Yes, we had a theater that we opened just after the pandemic, which is a great place,
Great time
to open a theater. Our performers were wearing masks in Aurora. It's still existing. We sold the theater. It's called the Bit Theater. And so I told my wife, I was like, hey, we can either extend this lease, or what if we just sell the house and sell the theater and move to Fort Wayne? And she was very excited about it.
Oh, good for you. Yeah. All right, well, welcome to town.
Thanks so much for having us.
If you've been to an improv show before, it's one of the things, if you know, you know.
Yes.
But for those people who haven't experienced improv comedy, what's a show like? Explain what happens at a show.
Great question. I consider, the way I describe improv to people that have never seen it before, pretty much everyone's seen Whose Line Is It Anyway? But I call it a spontaneous artistic expression, and that can come in a bunch of different ways. Short form improv is what you'd see at like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Long form improv, it's basically like an improvised play, or like a play that we're writing and scripting literally in the moment, so you're seeing the whole thing. And I really like the nature of improv because it's very ephemeral. It's there for that moment, and we get to experience it with the audience and the performers. And even if we tried to do the same show twice in a row, it would be different because the audience is integral to creating the show as well.
Yeah, and the dynamic, talk a little bit about the dynamic between performer and audience, because when you're in the audience at an improv show, everything feels more immediate because it's just been thought of, whether it's good or bad.
Yes.
It's like, right? And you're rooting for the performers, or you're rooting against the performer.
Oh, I love that you said that because that to me is one of the big differences between short form and long form improv. Because in short form improv, when you see Whose Line Is It Anyway, we know what the rules are of what the game they're about to play is. And the funny part is kind of seeing them screw up, seeing them trip over their words. So you're kind of rooting against the performers in short form improv. In long form improv, you want them to succeed. You don't want it to feel cringy and awkward. You want them to be successful, so you're rooting more for them, I think.
What got you into this? Is that laugh, getting that laugh, the drug that keeps you going?
Yes. So when I was a very young kid, I remember I had a Fozzie Bear joke book that I would tell jokes out of, and I went to school at Notre Dame. And I think my sophomore year is when they started the Humor Artists, which has now evolved to be their improv group. And when we first started, it was really sketch comedy. Sketch comedy is another thing that we're going to do at Fort Wayne Improv.
Okay.
It's like Saturday Night Live. And so I went back to law school at Notre Dame. I had taken a couple of years off, and the group had kind of evolved from sketch to improv and stand-up. So I really got into it, actually, even coming from Chicago, I got into it more in Indiana, in northwestern Indiana. I had seen shows and done some stuff, seen improv in the Chicago area, but performing it, I kind of got my love after I'd already moved out to Chicago.
Michael, explain the concept of yes and, which is so critical to improv.
Yes. So to make a successful improv scene, if you were to walk into an improv scene and say, oh, I'm taking my dog for a walk, and I were to say, that's not a dog, that's a skunk, I would certainly get a laugh. Well, depending on the crowd, I'd probably get a laugh. But what we teach at Fort Wayne Improv is to just agree with the reality that you're creating, and then add more information to it. So if you walked into a scene and said, I'm taking my dog for a walk, I would say yes, so acknowledging that you're taking your dog for a walk, and your dog is getting so big, I'm so glad you got a puppy.
Okay, so you're also doing classes, right?
Yes.
So And you teach this in the classes, right?
Yes.
Is it for all ages? Can anyone, I mean, if you don't want to be a performer on Whose Line anyways, why would you take an improv class?
Great question. The improv, we spent a couple of years being super distant from each other and being separated, and we kind of had this sort of human traumatic experience. And improv is all about bringing people together and connecting them. So I did a couple things when we were going through the pandemic and tried to teach improv remotely. And it's just not the same as when you're dealing with a delay and you're not making that contact, talking to people face to face. It helps. Communication is the biggest thing that it helps with. It helps with listening. That's the biggest lesson I think I teach my students.
Listening?
It's all about listening.
Why is that so important?
Because to me, you can't even get to the yes and unless I'm actually listening to you. So we have a tendency to hustle everything along and finish each other's sentences and to speed everything along because that's the world we live in right now. But when we take the time to actually think about what someone's saying to us and actually take that beat, I like to tell my students that there's a line and then another line, but in between those two lines is where the improv actually happens. So if you say a line in a scene, I have to filter through the choices that my characters made, through choices your characters made, where we are in a scene, before I can respond and have it make any sense.
And by the way, it's no rehearsals, no script. Sometimes you make magic, and sometimes you miss the mark, right?
Yes. I'll push back a little bit. There are some rehearsals. So even though the kind of common joke is, well, if it's improvised, if it's all made up, why do you need to rehearse? Because there are certain things, there are techniques and rules, loose rules that we do. And I tell my students, learn the rules so you can learn when to break the rules and when that will be okay.
All right, what's a rule? Give me a rule.
Well, yes and would be a rule.
Okay.
Don't say no is kind of the better way of saying yes and. And don't ask questions is one of the rules. I think more of a general thing is try to be giving gifts to the scene. So I consider a gift any information that you're adding to a scene. Versus if I ask a question, if we walk into a scene and I say to you, who are you and what are you doing? I haven't done any improv. I haven't added any gifts to that scene. I'm deferring the improv to you to do all the improv. Versus if I walk into a scene and say, son, you failed another test. I've given a lot of information. I've given probably my emotional state. I've given us a relationship. I've given us what's happened, what just happened. You failed another test.
Yeah.
So it's not just your first test. So.
What do you hope people walk out of the theater if they take a class and if they go to a show?
I want Fort Wayne Improv to be everyone's third space.
Okay.
I want people to feel comfortable. I want them to feel welcome. I want them to be able to take creative chances. I want them to know I'm not going to yell at them if they fail, because that's what improv is. It's about failing and learning from those failures and progressing. So I try to have a very quick path for the students to get on stage right when they start taking classes. It's almost like a yoga studio model for our classes, where you can kind of jump in at your comfort level.
Right.
And then we actually have our first one coming up soon. Not when this airs, I'm realizing. We just had our first one, our first student jam. So it'll be like a student teacher jam. It's a pay what you like show that the students can start to learn. Because as much as I can tell them, I have thousands of hours of experience doing improv, but those are my experiences. They don't even help me anymore necessarily, because it's constantly evolving. So just telling them is not as helpful as getting them out there and showing them and giving them a chance to be on stage.
Well, it's a great addition to Fort Wayne. You can check out the Fort Wayne Improv at 1314 East State Street in Fort Wayne, or find them online at fortwayneimprov.com. Michael, thank you for coming to the
Thanks so much for having me.